What's your country's best superhero team? While Canada has a few different teams to choose from, the most well-known and beloved is definitely Alpha Flight. Number 10, Manbot. When the secretive and often shady branch of the Canadian government known as Department H gained access to the Box robot, they took one of their employees, named Bernie Lachesnais, and merged him with the robot. This resulted in most of Bernie's personality being lost and he became Manbot. As a computer-machine-human hybrid, Manbot has several abilities that make him a valuable member of the team. Not only can he fly and process an enormous amount of data really quick, but he's also able to shoot both missiles and energy blasts at his enemies and incapacitate his foes with a nerve toxin. As he is mostly a machine, he's also immune to mind control, as he showed in Alpha Flight Volume 2, Issue 4, when he was the only member of the team who was able to resist the mind control powers of the villain Mesmero. Number 9, Yukon Jack. When Walter Lankowski, aka Sasquatch, was forced to assemble a new Alpha Flight team when the original squad was kidnapped by aliens, he approached the heir to the throne of a secret civilization in the village of Chemteron. Yuko Tujak Zurgi Mozo Ada showed no interest in leaving his home, but Walter bribed the chief to drug his son and allow him to take him to the outside world so he could become more worldly. Nicknamed Yukon Jack, he joined the newly formed team, and using his considerable combat skills, in addition to his powers, which allow him to telekinetically control the bone pieces covering his body, he is also able to survive in sub-zero temperatures and can cast light from his hands. Number 8, Radius. Jared Corbo is a mutant who was raised with his half-brother Adrian in the East Ontario town of Orlew at an orphanage called Hull House, or as the orphans nicknamed it, Hell House. Unbeknownst to most of the residents, Hull House was actually being operated by Department H as a way to find and recruit members for their various superhero teams, sometimes waiting until the orphans were of age, and sometimes having them adopted by the department so they could participate while underage. Which sounds bad, but when you think about it, is pretty much exactly what Professor X is doing. Jared's mutant powers allow him to create a force field which he is incapable of shutting off. While this protected him from harm, it also meant that he could not touch or be touched by others, and was unable to effectively shower and couldn't eat without wearing a special eating filter which converted the food to a form that could get through the field, allowing Jared to get the necessary nutrients he needed to survive. Jared can also extend the field in order to use it offensively by either crushing things in a move he calls the Nutcracker Special, or by creating powerful ranged attacks. Number 7, Windshear. Colin Ashworth is a mutant with the power to transform air into hard air. He transforms this hardened air into various shapes which he can use for both attack and defense when in battle. He has used this ability to create concussive blasts which he uses to attack his enemies and to fly. He has also used this hard air to create shields and battering rams, as well as hard air bullets and needles that he launches at his foes. While all of this is useful, his most devastating attack is his ability to alter the gases in a person's body, causing their blood to become as thick as glue. Although he started as an employee of the villainous Roxxon Corporation, he eventually became disillusioned with the violent acts they were forcing him to perform and quit so that he could join Alpha Flight. When Alpha Flight disbanded, Windshear retired to England, where he began selling sculptures and trinkets that he created with his powers. He eventually became bored with this simple life and adopted the new superhero persona of Chinook. Number 6, Centennial. Ruby Princeton III was in a coma for 15 years until Sasquatch, while trying to find members for his new Alpha Flight team, noticed his unique biorhythmic signature and revived him. At some point in the years he was in a coma, Rudy had developed superpowers. Although the 96-year-old originally wanted no part of the superhero lifestyle, he soon found that with his new powers, living a normal life would be quite dull, and joined the team, becoming the Centennial. As a retired police officer, Rudy has acquired a wealth of experience in combat, which perfectly complements his superhuman strength and speed, invulnerability, flight, and heat vision. Basically, he's a geriatric Superman. Number 5, Wire. Wire's true identity is still unknown, but what we do know is that he started out as a genetically enhanced assassin with enhanced strength, speed, agility, and reflexes, as well as the ability to launch and control tendrils of inorganic fiber from his body. This, combined with his incredible fighting skills, weapons knowledge, and claws, made him a dangerous person to have as an enemy. He was hired to create create a group of superhuman killers for the Secret Empire, but he eventually felt remorseful for his actions and began hunting down the creatures he helped create. This brought him into conflict with Alpha Flight, as one of these creatures, Wildchild, was operating as a member of the team called Weapon Omega. They eventually came to an uneasy truce, and Wire joined the team for a time, although tensions between him and his teammates always remained high. Number 4. Box. Roger Box was a gifted inventor who was confined to a wheelchair after both of his legs were amputated. Not wanting to be limited to his chair, he created the Box robot, which he developed with the help of James Hudson, aka Guardian. Box operates with the use of a helmet which projects Roger's consciousness into the robot. The robot is incredibly strong and essentially invulnerable, and is able to fly, and is equipped with powerful blasters. Box was recruited to Beta Flight, the group trainees are put in when they are just about to graduate to Alpha Flight, but lost out on his chance to be a hero when Pierre Elliott Trudeau defunded Department H. Roger was recruited by the evil Jerome Jackson to join his supervillain team, Omega Flight, a group dedicated to killing James Hudson. Roger joined the group hoping to infiltrate them and help save Hudson. Jackson discovered his duplicitous nature and stole the Box robot to fight Guardian in the infamous Alpha Flight number 12, which resulted in both Guardian and Jackson seemingly being killed. Roger later joined Alpha Flight, creating an advanced version of the Box that didn't require a control helmet and that the user could instead phase into. Box eventually suffered a psychotic break, which resulted in him being lobotomized by the villainous Scramble and eventually killed by fellow teammate Madison Jeffries. Number 3. Wildchild. Kyle Gibney was the subject of several experiments by the Secret Empire, who were trying to create the perfect killer. Although he was already a mutant with a freakish appearance, the experiments made Kyle a feral beast of a man, who eventually rebelled and destroyed the Empire's headquarters. He was later found by Department H and placed in the entry-level training group, Gamma Flight. When the group disbanded, he was one of the people recruited for Jerome Jackson's Omega Flight, and was one of the enemies that Alpha Flight fought and captured in Alpha Flight number 12. He was later pardoned by the government and allowed to join a government-sanctioned Gamma Flight after Alpha Flight had gone private and were assumed dead. The two teams eventually combined, and his teammate Nemesis helped him overcome his bestial nature and took away his deformities, and he became Weapon Omega. His animalistic nature and appearance soon returned, and he quit the team, becoming Wildchild once again, and eventually joining the Weapon X program. Like similar mutants, like Wolverine and Sabretooth, Wildchild has a powerful healing factor as well as enhanced strength, speed, and stamina, as well as enhanced hearing and sense of smell, and razor-sharp claws and fangs. Number 2. Persuasion. When the evil Purple Man, Zebediah Kilgrave, fell in love with a woman named Melanie, he used his mind control powers to make Melanie fall in love with him, and they spent the next few months together. When Kilgrave released her from his control, she did what many Americans only threaten to do when they lose an election, and moved to Canada. She gave birth to Kilgrave's daughter, Kara, who seemed like a normal girl with a normal complexion. When she was a teenager, however, her skin turned purple, and she began producing the pheromones that allowed her to control people. Like her father, Kara can force people to do whatever she wants due to the pheromones that she is secreting. Rather than become a supervillain, she chose to use these powers for good, being recruited to Beta Squad before eventually graduating to the main team. She was briefly coerced into villainy when the evil Master of the World brainwashed her and made her join his evil team, Alpha Strike. After this brief stint, she eventually joined the New Thunderbolts. Number 1. Vindicator. When she was first introduced in X-Men number 139, Heather Hudson seemed like little more than Guardian's supportive wife, but the more we learned about her in subsequent appearances, the more integral to the team she became. When James Hudson was working for Amcam Oil on his geological exploration suit, Heather McNeil was working as his boss, Jerome Jackson's secretary. She was smitten with James, and when he learned that his suit was going to be sold as a weapon and quit, she resigned too, being impressed with his strong morals. It was her idea to approach Department H for help, which led to the creation of Alpha Flight. When the team was defunded, it was Heather that brought them back together to battle the evil Tundra. She continued on in a support role before her husband was seemingly killed. In order to carry on his legacy, she was given a similar battlesuit and became the new leader of the team, Vindicator. From humble beginnings, she has managed to become one of Canada's greatest heroes. In Alpha Flight Volume 2, she was given a new suit which gave her the added ability to control volcanic and seismic activity.
And it said resistance to telepathy. Psychics in the Marvel Universe are undeniably real, with a significant number of mutants possessing psychic abilities, including members of the X-Men. Professor X, the X-Men founder, is a powerful psychic, and Jean Grey initially displayed telekinesis before unlocking her own psychic powers. Rachel Grey, Jean Grey's daughter from an alternate universe, is also a psychic and frequently joins the X-Men, but despite the prevalence of psychics, some heroes in the universe receive training to defend themselves against psychic attacks and probing, such as Wolverine, who was given psionic shields by Charles Xavier to enhance his resistance. While these defenses are not foolproof, they offer valuable protection, especially when there are so many damn psychics. Notably, even some villains have safeguards against psychics, like Magneto and Juggernaut, who has that helmet that prevents Professor X from accessing their thoughts. But in a bizarre turn of events, Red Skull consumed Professor X's brain, gaining psychic abilities himself. So there you go, Wolverine, you'll be able to fight against Red Skull a little bit more, I guess. Is that really a common problem for you? I don't think so. In at 9, lie detection. Logan, or Wolverine, whatever you want to call him, possesses a heightened sense of smell and hearing that surpasses that of an average human. His sense of smell is incredibly potent, which allows him to detect scents from a considerable distance, making it useful for tracking down enemies, but this acute sense of smell enables him to actually pick up on certain emotions as well, such as fear, which is emanating from individuals, pheromones, all that jazz. Okay? His hearing is also quite exceptional, allowing him to perceive sounds that are far away and even detect softer noises that are typically beyond the range of normal perception. So, combining these powers, Wolverine actually becomes basically a human lie detector. By focusing on a specific person, he can determine if they are telling the truth or not by relying on his sense of smell, detecting changes in their scent and sweating patterns if they lie, while using his hearing to actually concentrate on their heartbeat and detect any shifts in their tone of voice, which is pretty dope, and I wish I had that in my last relationship. In at 8, Berserker Rage. Here I am just dumping my trauma. Wolverine possesses a dangerous state known as Berserker Rage, which is triggered by an overwhelming anger that drives him to lash out uncontrollably. In this frenzied state, he becomes an unstoppable killing machine, slashing through enemies without hesitation. However, the downside is that Wolverine loses all sense of control and may even harm his allies, unable to recognize them in the midst of his rage, which I certainly relate to. This internal struggle has plagued Logan since childhood and often leads him to distance himself from others, fearing what he might do, but despite the risks, there are moments when the Berserker Rage proves necessary, particularly in his relentless battles against Sabretooth. The movie franchise also showcases this aspect of Wolverine, with a memorable scene in X2, the best X-Men movie, where he unleashes this fury, slashing through adversaries within the confines of the X-Mansion. But again, you all remember that scene, it's the best X-Men movie. Please flash sarcasm on the screen because they won't know I'm joking. In its 7, Night Vision. The combination of Wolverine's claws and super healing already gives him a formidable set of powers. Okay, the healing factor alone ensures that any wound is swiftly healed, including those caused by his claws, making him truly lethal. And alongside these regenerative capabilities that literally brought him back from a drop of blood, Logan possesses heightened senses like the super hearing, the smelling, and the ability to see in the dark. Although this power is often overlooked by some comic writers, it provides him with a distinct advantage in various situations. Wolverine has had an array of powers that has changed and evolved over the years, making him increasingly more powerful, but what initially began as a mutant with enhanced durability and claws developed into a character that is basically a, dare I say, Wolverine. Haha, get it? Yeah. He's constantly aware of his surroundings no matter what environment he's in because of this night vision, and his tendency to eliminate enemies before they actually pose like a genuine threat makes him exceedingly more formidable than normal. And this explains how he's able to do that, because you know, he can see in the dark. And it's 6, Swordsman. In the 1990s comic storyline Fatal Attraction, Magneto forcibly removes the adamantium from Wolverine's body, leaving him without his signature claws. In this adamantiumless period, Wolverine carried a katana given to him by the Yoshida clan for added protection. One notable use of this katana was when he ended up beheading Bloodscream. Yeah, Oh boy. Later on, Wolverine acquired the Muramasa Blade, a sword with mythical properties capable of neutralizing a mutant's healing abilities, which is the unique blade that became his weapon of choice in certain situations, allowing him to confront and defeat formidable adversaries such as Omega Red and Sabretooth. And as it was the only weapon capable of truly ending Wolverine, therefore also able to end Omega Red and Sabretooth. But yeah, he's skilled with a sword, which you wouldn't really expect because, you know, he has the claws, but also makes sense because the claws are just basically tiny swords. Halfway through into number 5, Wisdom. Logan's journey as a superhero spans across significant historical events. Okay, he served in both World War I and World War II. He even fought alongside Captain America, and following these wars he found himself in Japan where he formed a family only to tragically lose them, and these devastating losses combined with centuries of heartbreak contribute to Logan's bitter and cynical demeanor. But after going through the adamantium bonding process, he befriended Alpha Fight, a Canadian superhero team, and became one of Canada's earliest superheroes. His initial task involved intervening in a conflict between Hulk and a Wendigo. However, his path took a turn when he was sent to eliminate Charles Xavier, but ended up being influenced by Xavier's telepathic abilities, leading him to join the X-Men. But still, okay, Wolverine's wealth of experiences and wisdom greatly influenced the X-Men's journey, and I mean, with an extended lifespan comes years to learn and become wiser, which he clearly has, so then it only continues on. So yeah, dude, damn, well done. Good for you. In at 4, Feral Form. The 90s marked a peculiar era in comic books characterized by excessive violence, extreme physical attributes, and objectification. But it was a time when unconventional ideas emerged, yielding both remarkable stories like Age of Apocalypse and disappointing ones like the Clone Saga. But surprisingly, Wolverine spent a significant portion of this decade without his adamantium skeleton. Despite losing the metal coating, he did retain his bone claws and healing factor, maintaining, like, you know, the classic Wolverine sort of aspect. However, the supervillain Genesis sought to actually restore Wolverine's adamantium, driven by a desire to serve the powerful Apocalypse. In a failed attempt though, Logan's body rejected the procedure and triggered a dormant mutation. Stripped of adamantium, Wolverine underwent a primal transformation, adopting an animalistic mentality while his nails grew into natural claws. It showcased the profound impact that the absence of adamantium had on Wolverine's body, and he just kind of became a beast, ironically enough. So yeah, he kind of needs the adamantium nowadays, otherwise he kind of goes back. Getting close to the end, in number 3, Super Dad. On Earth 982, Rena was the new girl at high school, where some of the more popular girls tried to make her life miserable, stating that she was the daughter of an immigrant and an unemployed biker and all that. But when her dad, Logan, picked her up from school on his bike, everyone's opinion changed, especially when they learned that her mother, Elektra, was a wealthy martial arts expert. Yeah, it's crazy what fear can do. However, life at high school wasn't just about dealing with, like, the crowd and, you know, normal high school things, because, you know, it's a comic book high school. So, as Wild Thing, Rena had to save a classmate from a high-speed kidnapper, defeat a computerized assassin, stop a demonic invader, and even fight one of her teachers when he was turned into a Prime Sentinel. But that's just high school. But the fact that he can just pull up to her school and then everyone stops making fun of his kid, that's a superpower, okay? And I wish my dad had that superpower. Although I probably wouldn't be as funny as I think I am if that had been the case. But ultimately, in number 2, time travel. When translating comic book superheroes to the big screen, screenwriters have to take creative liberties to adapt the material effectively, okay? What happens in comics can't necessarily work on screen. For example, Thanos' infatuation with Lady Death, which was a significant aspect of his character in the comics, was omitted for Infinity War and Endgame, allowing for a more focused portrayal of him. Similarly, the X-Men's colorful costumes were deemed impractical for the early films, leading to more black latex that ironically have aged poorly compared to their comic counterparts. But when the classic Days of Future Past storyline was adapted in the movie of the same name, significant alterations were made. In the comics, Kitty Pryde was the central character sent to the past to save the future, but in the movie, Wolverine took on that role. The film introduced the concept of Kitty Pryde's ability to send someone's consciousness back in time, with the caveat that it damages the mind. Due to his regenerative healing factor though, Wolverine became the only valid candidate to actually go through time that far back and ensure everyone's survival. Centennial. And then finally, in at number 1, the Phoenix Force. I mean, like, okay, this is kind of a cop-out, but like, it still happened, okay? It was originally believed that the Phoenix Force was just simply an alternate personality of Jean Grey, or well, I guess the Phoenix was, just emerging when she acquired immense power. However, after Jean's tragic demise in the Dark Phoenix saga, it was retconned that the Phoenix was in fact a cosmic entity, and the Phoenix Force had a knack for possessing individuals, with Jean Grey being its favored host. Over the years though, it has possessed numerous mutants. Rachel Grey, Jean's daughter from an alternate future, Cyclops, Emma Frost, Colossus, Magik, and Namor were all possessed by the Phoenix Force at some point, and simultaneously, in fact, forming the group known as the Phoenix Five, because, you know, you couldn't have one more, otherwise they would be competing with the Sinister Six, and you couldn't have one less, otherwise it would be like the Fantastic Four. You know, there's a lot of numbers that you gotta work with. But yeah, Wolverine has also had it, okay? So there you go. He's had that, and he has all those powers, or at least he has.
Number 10, Northstar and Aurora. Look at me, cheating right out the gate. Northstar and Aurora are mutant twins who have the same powers, which is why they are listed together. Jean-Marie and Jean-Paul Barbier were separated early in life when their parents died in a car accident. Jean-Paul ended up in foster homes before eventually becoming an Olympic skier, while Jean-Marie ended up at a strict Catholic girls' boarding school, which was so traumatic that she ended up developing dissociative identity disorder, creating an alternate personality known as Aurora. Each twin possesses super speed as well as the ability to fly. Because some readers are likely more familiar with Northstar due to his time on the X-Men, away from his sister, they may be surprised to learn that when the twins link hands, they produce an intensely bright light that can be used to blind their enemies, making them even more powerful as a pair. Number 9, Sasquatch. Walter Lankowski was a brilliant and athletic student at Penn State on a football scholarship when he struck up a friendship with a fellow student named Bruce Banner. The two went their separate ways, but Banner inspired a fascination with gamma radiation in Walter. Walter became a player for the Green Bay Packers before retiring to finish his graduate studies at MIT. Fascinated by the Hulk, Walter decided to conduct a similar, though more controlled, gamma experiment on himself. This transformed him into the incredibly strong creature known as Sasquatch. Although at first glance he seems to simply be a knockoff of Hulk, due to the help of his teammate Snowbird, Walter is able to keep the beast at bay and retain his genius intellect, when in his Sasquatch form, something the Hulk is only occasionally capable of in the comics. This makes him more than a blunt instrument, often helping the team just as much as a genius scientist. Number 8, Thunder. This one's a bit of a journey, so stick with me. In World War II, Lewis Sadler became Major Maple Leaf, who was the Canadian equivalent to Captain America. He had limited invulnerability as well as super strength, which made him a true force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. Many years later, his son, Lewis Sadler Jr., would take on the Major Maple Leaf mantle. When the original Alpha Flight team was kidnapped by a group of aliens, Sasquatch recruited the new Major Maple Leaf to join a new version of the team in an effort to mount a rescue mission. It was assumed that he had the same powers as his father, as well as power blasts and the ability to fly. But it turned out that the new Major didn't actually have any powers. Not that he would ever admit it. No, it turned out that the one with powers was actually his magical horse, Thunder. Thunder the Super Equine has all the aforementioned powers as well as extremely high intelligence for a horse. So like the equivalent intelligence of a normal person. He can also communicate basic messages to the Major through meaningful gazes. Thunder is pretty chill about Major Maple Leaf stealing his, well, thunder, and remained Sadler's faithful steed for the duration of the character's run. Number 7, Snowbird. In an effort to save the Earth from the mystical great beasts, the Inuit goddess of the Northern Lights, Nelvana, mated with a human in order to create a daughter, Naria, who came to the Earth to protect Canada from the evil great beasts. She took on the secret identity of a RCMP officer named Anne Mackenzie, and soon joined the original Alpha Flight team as Snowbird. Snowbird's most well-known ability is to transform herself into any animal found in northern Canada, taking on its mass and strength, as well as any of the animal's other abilities. Some of her transformations include polar bears, owls, and whales. She can also turn into mystical Canadian creatures, giving her the power to become the dangerous and incredibly powerful Wendigo. Beyond these more well-known powers, she also possesses super strength in her human form, as well as post-cognition, which is the ability to see events that have transpired in the past at a given location. In Snowbird's case, she can see up to 6 hours in the past. Although this weakness no longer applies, Snowbird used to grow weak and sick if she was taken outside of Canada's borders. Number 6. Talisman. Elizabeth Two Young Men is the estranged daughter of Shaman, who reluctantly joined Alpha Flight and began working with her father. She eventually reached into the Shaman's mystical pouch and found the Coronet of Enchantment, transforming Elizabeth into Talisman. Although she cannot remove the tiara without suffering excruciating pain, it grants her the ability to cast several impressive spells. Some of these spells give her the abilities of levitation, teleportation, and matter manipulation, just to name a few. Although her father can ask spirits to act on his behalf, the Coronet also gives Talisman the power to make spirits do what she wants. Number 5. Madison Jeffries. Another mutant member of Alpha Flight, Madison Jeffries served in the Vietnam War as a mechanic before returning home to Canada. He has the ability to alter and restructure inorganic materials with his mind. He uses this to create weapons and machines that help him in battle. When he returned home, he began suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, which caused him to lose control of his powers and take over a small town. Wolverine was sent in to deal with the situation and helped Jeffries before he was recruited into the Alpha Flight training program, Gamma Flight. He eventually joined the main team, even having a relationship with Vindicator while her husband Guardian was presumed dead. Jeffries' powers extend beyond simply being able to control machines. He can actually phase his body and consciousness into machines, which he used on several occasions to merge with the Box mech suit to heighten his strength in combat. Number 4. Guardian. The leader of Alpha Flight, James McDonald Hudson, was a scientist working for the AmCam oil company to develop an exosuit to make oil exploration more efficient. When he discovered that AmCam was planning to sell the suit to the Americans to use as a weapon, he destroyed the prototype and went to work for the Canadian government, developing his supersuit and going through various different hero names before settling on Guardian. His power suit acts as a powerful armor while providing him with force field protection. The armor also gives him the ability to fly and shoot concussive electromagnetic beams. Although he does not have super strength, he can use a graviton beam to lift heavy objects. He can also be propelled westward at the same speed as the rotation of the Earth, making him appear to teleport. When he was presumed dead, his wife Heather wore a similar suit, taking on the name Vindicator, leading the team in his absence. It was later revealed that Guardian had been rescued by the alien race, the Quarillan, who saved his life. They mistakenly thought the suit was part of him and turned him into a cyborg, making all of the suit's powers a part of him. Number 3. Puck. In his original appearances, Eugene Judd was simply a little person who had incredible acrobatic abilities and fighting skills. When John Byrne left the series, it was revealed that he had actually once been an extremely large man who was attacked by an evil sorcerer. This resulted in him being given a lengthened lifespan, but losing his height as a result. Puck's compression grants him super strength, being able to lift 10 tons and move at superhuman speed. One of the most beloved members of Alpha Flight, Puck is considered the heart of the team. He was killed by the Collective. Puck was sent to Hell, where he fought his way all to the top, becoming the ruler of Hell for a time, before returning to life to help save the lives of his friends. Number 2. Marina. Marina was found as an egg by the Smallwood family in Newfoundland, who raised the young alien as their own before she was recruited to train with Gamma Flight, eventually graduating to Alpha Flight in their first issue. She soon left the team to pursue a relationship with Namor the Submariner, who she eventually married. As an amphibian, Marina is able to thrive both above and below the water, being able to swim at a top speed of 51 knots. At times, her alien instincts would make her become bloodthirsty and violent, causing her hands to transform into deadly talons. Although not one of the most powerful members of the team, she eventually transformed into a Leviathan, a giant sea snake that could shoot beams from her eyes. Number 1. Shaman. Dr. Michael Two Young Men was Canada's most brilliant surgeon before losing his wife in surgery caused him to recommit his life to learning the mystic ways of his people. He eventually became Shaman, one of the original members of Alpha Flight. The source of his powers is a mystical pouch which contains anything he needs at any given time to perform his spells. He has been shown to be able to control plants as well as fire and the weather. He can also convene with spirits and animals, as well as project his astral form in a similar way as Doctor Strange. Shaman is incredibly smart, which makes him use these powers in really clever ways, making them even more effective. For example, when Guardian was almost murdered in X-Men Unlimited number 45, Shaman had the spirits of the air keep feeding air to the Guardian's brain so that they could preserve his brain functions until they could get him proper medical attention.